Welcome to Wealth, Health, and Wisdom Mastery. Today, I'll be focusing a little around the wealth section, wealth components. And today, I really want to focus on the fund, the universal fund. We certainly live in a world of abundance. I actually woke up today reflecting on this, believing that everybody in this world has enough wealth that they need to live well. And thing is, I believe that the sky is big enough and the birds really don't collide in the sky. There's enough of the sky for all the birds in the world to fly. And there's enough air for every human being to breathe. It's only when you go to a confined area you begin to, struggle to breathe. So it means that if you are in the right place where you ought to be, right there out in the open, there's enough for all. We live in a world of abundance. It may not be obvious. It seems that many people are living a lot less than they could or they should. So many people are living and working so hard and living like an ant when in fact they should be feasting. Daily we could all have what we need, both for ourselves and for our families. To be honest, I think even the middle class are a selfish bunch. Why I say that they're a selfish bunch is because they just have enough for themselves and their family. We all need to push ourselves to have more than enough for our family and beyond our family so that we can help others, pull them and show them what they can become. And that way, the world continues to enjoy what is available. And we live in a great time where we have the internet, information for action, information is so available. And there's so many coaches all over the world wanting other birds to get up and fly. So, I want to say that when people talk about scarcity is a myth. It's something fleeting. It's about a perception. It may appear real, but it's not as real as we think it is. Because what it's requiring from us is deeper thinking deeply around what are the alternatives. How can I change the situation? What are the alternatives? There is enough. We just need to think through the problem, think through the situation, and come up with as many alternatives as we can, and put our energy into finding these alternatives and making sure that these alternatives give us what we're looking for and the wealth. Another thing I'd like to talk about today is somebody will ask me, why am I talking about the universal fund when in fact they cannot even survive today or tomorrow? And that brings me to the issue of the fact that everybody needs to develop an emergency fund, a personal emergency fund. So my question is, you're working and one is not able to work for the next 3 days, next 3 months, would you be able to live without a salary? Do you have enough passive income? Do you have enough income stacked somewhere, saved, that you can call on? Because if you had a minimum of 3 months salary or that covers your daily living, not necessarily a salary, but if you know what your monthly expense is and you have 3 months of it kept somewhere in an account that you can easily get to, then when somebody is out of work because he's at the end of a contract or he's unwell and he needs to be away for all that much, he doesn't have to worry around How is he going to pay his bills? How is he going to meet up with his obligations in the first 3 months? Usually, hopefully, things don't last that long. But to be honest, the minimum you expected that seems reasonable will be 3 months. But the more you can make it like 6 months, 12 months, even 18 months, then you are in a good place. And then people will ask me, how are you going to develop an emergency, or how are you going to establish an emergency fund when you are barely able to make ends meet, where you are barely able to make, to pay your bills for the moment? My question would be, what's the alternative? Would you rather not have an emergency fund? I think we need to take the bull by the horn and decide that we must do something in that direction. And I think it's something that is simple to do, but you need to be committed. How do you do that? It's to decide a percentage of your income, any income that you get, a percentage of it you are going to keep and continue to keep, never touching that amount, that pot of money, until you have achieved your desired target, like 3 months of your monthly expenses, 6 months or 12 months. So you may even want to start up with a 1%. What that means is that for every $100 or £100 or naira, whatever your currency is that you receive, you want to put 1 naira, dollar, pound away. You may start off with that for this month. Next month you may want to say, oh, I could manage just 1% of my income. I could manage it. Perhaps the second month you want to step it up to 2%. And then step it up a little further to 3%, 4%, 5%. It's not something you do in one go. Some people are able to bring together this savings. It may take you 8 months, 12 months, but it's being consistent. How else could you do it? It's also about looking at your budgets, making sure you have a budget, looking at your daily spending, your monthly spending. You need to look to see your spend and decide, did I really need this? Could I have done better? Did I really want this? You have to, when you are trying to when you are trying to save your money, it doesn't mean that you lose on your lifestyle. Absolutely not. You work to enjoy your life. However, when we are not careful, when you look away, you may find that you are being wasteful. So it's really about taking control and spending your money where and how you want to get the money spent. So perhaps few things that one can do would be, you don't have to have your lunch out, during lunchtime at work, to have your lunch, to go buy lunch. Perhaps you want to only eat 2 or 3 times a week out and reduce the number of times you go buy your lunch during work time. Perhaps you also want to have your coffee in a cup and take it on your way to work, rather than stop over at the Starbucks or the coffee shop to pick it up. Nothing stops you from continuing to have your coffee. It's just really about skipping 1 or 2 in those your daily or weekly habits. Those pennies, dollars, nairas, whatever your currency is, saving those, just skipping those things, little changes in your life, you'll be amazed how much you are able to, kind of save towards your emergency fund. I will also say that you also might want to consider things like carpooling. You also may also consider to cut down on outings like the family cinemas and outings that you spend a lot of money. So perhaps instead of doing it every week, you want to cut down and have friends come to your house with their own food, and then you have a little entertainment and have more, intensive, have your family time or you have, you kind of have your evening with your friends, chatting and still enjoying the friendship that you deserve. So you also want to look at your monthly expenses, some of the subscriptions that you have. Do you really read all those newspapers that you buy? Would you rather just buy the weekend paper that covers most of the that does cover for a lot of the news that you try to pick up through the week? I mean, it's really about looking at your expenses. And sometimes you find that you have certain things that you don't really need to insure in your house. Little gadgets that, after 6 months, you feel that you've even got the worth of the value of the use of those gadgets. So really, and again, sometimes people thin themselves out too much and paying little bits and pieces. So sometimes you may decide that, oh, if I'm going to buy something and it's less than a particular amount, I'm going to pay cash, so that your outgoings are not your direct debits are not too many. So really, we can all achieve our emergency fund, and the great thing about this is that it gives you more control. What would you do if you had your emergency fund? Let's say after you are now able to have 3 months monthly, your living expenses, 6 months living expenses. What do you do with it? You can invest it or put it into an interest, high interest rate account, but that allows you, whatever vehicle you are using. We're not necessarily saying leave it in your bank account for the normal saving rates, but put it in that account that gives you a higher yield, but also gives you the flexibility to call for your money when you need it. So I do hope that you can commit towards developing a personal emergency fund, or if you have a family, you can work with your spouse and your household to develop a family emergency fund, which would be useful for times when disaster happens, like the pandemic. We hope we don't have another pandemic on waves of this current pandemic. But what each person wants to do, while the government may come to our help in different ways, your own control, taking control and taking responsibility for your wealth and how you react, or how you are more disposed to an emergency situation, is something that is kind of completely in your own control as well. So think about, what I like us to do is to think through these thoughts, and I like to hear from you how you are going and whether you have any questions. Thank you.